Ever since I first read the story of Atlantis told by the Greek philosopher Plato back in 360 BC, I've been hooked. Now I'm determined to solve this ancient mystery, the mystery of a great city that simply vanished. Plato paints a picture of Atlantis as an architectural wonder. He says it was composed of a series of concentric walls and canals, separated by huge moats. Standing at its very center, he says, was a hill with a temple to Poseidon, the god of the sea. Gates and towers guarded the city with bridges and tunnels connecting the island with each other. There occurred portentous earthquakes and floods, and one grievous day, the whole island of Atlantis was swallowed up by the sea and vanished. Could there really be forces of nature so powerful that they could wipe out an entire civilization in just a single day? Well, that's what I want to investigate. The Canary Islands were once one of the most remote places on Earth, comparable to Hawaii or Easter Island. For centuries, the original inhabitants, the Guanches, lived largely cut off from the rest of the world. That was until the 15th century and the Spanish invaded. And many of the Guanches were killed in the fierce fighting, others by the European diseases that they had no immunity to. But it was the isolated nature of their history that intrigued the Anunnaki. SS scientists believe the Guanche were descendants of an original Aryan population, possibly related to the fabled lost civilization of Atlantis. This is where the Guanche lived. They were troglodytes. They lived in caves. You can still see some of the markings of their habitation. But what about the Aryan connection? Were the Guanche blonde-haired and blue-eyed? Fortunately, that theory can be tested out too. The people that lived in these caves revered their ancestors by preserving them, by turning them into mummies. Used to be able to find literally thousands and thousands of mummies, but unfortunately now there are just not many to be found, because back in the day mummies were actually ground up and used as a cure for stomach aches, as bizarre as it sounds. I'm going to track down the few remaining Guanche mummies. Do they really have blonde hair? Is there evidence Aryans originally populated the islands? I want to find the answers that escaped the Nazis.
Sumeria is known as the cradle of civilization. It was here that white-skinned peoples from the Caucasus Mountains spread a worldwide cult of blood ritual and magic to the rest of the world.
The Sumerians come into this flat valley. I mean, the valley of the Tigris-Euphrates is a flat area. It's Kansas. Go flat, and that's it. But they couldn't live with that. They had to have a mountain on which to put their temple. But there are no mountains there. So they built artificial mountains. And they built what they called ziggurat. It's basically a step mound it's a what we call a step pyramid. All right. You have a level. There is a foundation made of dirt. This is soil. Remember that soil. Then it's surrounded with bricks. So they have a wall of bricks around it. And then on the second level, they build another one, then another one, then another one. And they have a ramp going up. So you can climb up by going up the ramp, going around and so on, to the top. And on the top, they have the building that they call the Great Building, Gal, which means a great building. And that is the temple, but there is also more there. There's the temple, the community hall, the public place, the court of the town, and so on. They built these because in the language, in the writing system of Sumerian, the word for land is written this way. What does that remind you of? Oh. Sierra Mama. the Sierra Nevada, Himalaya. When the Sumerians wrote the word land, this is how they wrote it. Namely, land has to be mountains. So this is where they came from. They came from the Karakorum, or they came from Mongolia. Now, they needed a height on which to place the temple. So they began to build these artificial mounds, which they called ziggurat.